Welcome to the first edition of Investing 101 with CONTRA the HEARD investment newsletter. I'm your host, Todd MacSween, and in today's video, we'll be discussing free stock research resources with Philip MacKellar. This is the first video in a three-part series on investor resources. We'll also be discussing free news resources as well as free macro resources. So do stay tuned and be sure to subscribe. All right, without further ado, hello and welcome, Phil. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for setting up this interview.
No problem. Well, maybe we could tell our viewers why you wanted to talk stock research resources today.
Sure. The main reason is demand. I would say that I get asked where I do my own stock research probably at least once a month. And I know that Ben Gallender and Ben Stadelman get asked this question a lot as well. And sometimes it can be subscribers asking, where do I go to find a good financial statement? Other times it can be prospects who are interested in CONTRA the HEARD investment newsletter. And then other times it's even friends or acquaintances who come up to me and say, how do I analyze this stock, or where do I go so I can start to understand and analyze what's going on behind this stock? So I think it's a topic that a lot of people are interested in, and hopefully they find this video interesting as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, with so many sources, it's hard to know which ones to go to in this day and age. So,
yeah, I would say that's 100% true. There's a ton of different resources out there. So today what I'm going to try and focus on are sources that are free, sources that anyone can use, sources that are useful, and you don't have to have a big budget to go out and use them. I would mention a first caveat, or a few caveats though, on that. Although I'm talking about free resources today, some of the websites we talk about, they have a paid for feature if you want more information or more detail or something like that. And I would also say that the usefulness of the websites we talk about may change over time. And that's just the way it goes. Sometimes websites change, sometimes they become better, but sometimes they get worse as well. And then finally, I would say that this won't be an exhaustive list. It will actually be quite a short list of websites I truly find useful. And because of that, you could easily not use any of these websites and still assess stocks just fine.
yeah, perfect. Well, those are great caveats. Speaking of resources and websites that change, that just reminded me of Google Finance when it just imploded one day. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that actually. For me, I found that amazing and confusing because I used to like Google Finance a lot as well. And I remember it going from one of the best to one of the worst websites. It seemed overnight. It just changed. And they apparently never have looked back because that was years ago, I think now. And I remember a similar switch at Reuters and at MSN Money, which both those two websites are fine today, but they're not, in my opinion, as good as they used to be. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, we could spend all day talking about the suicide of Google Finance, can we? So you've sent me a list of 5 free resources. Maybe we could just go through that list. And the first one was Morningstar.
Yeah, so Morningstar, I'm glad that one came up first because I really like Morningstar. I find it very easy to use, provides a lot of good company data for listings around the globe, not just American companies or Canadian companies, which makes them unique, I would say. And then the depth of the data you can pull off of Morningstar is great. There's just so much you can get for really any company around the globe. It's a fantastic resource.
Yeah, I've always found the breadth of their data to be pretty good as well. What aspects of their platform stand out to you as being the best, would you say?
Yeah, I think there are 4 or 5 areas which stand out to me. The first is their financial statements. You can go online and you can type in any stock you like, and then you can look at the financial statements there. Sometimes companies don't do a very good job publishing or presenting financial statements, but Morningstar does a very good job. And the same thing with their valuation data. Their valuation data is pretty good, and it goes back many years. And then another aspect of their platform I really like is their performance data. So you can go back and you can look and see how the stock you're interested in has done on a 1-day basis, 1-year basis, all the way back to 10 or 15 years. And that breadth of data or that depth of data is great, and I really like that. I would also say their quote page is fairly straightforward, and quotes are a really good place to just start your research. You can look at things like dividend yield, 52-week highs and lows, market cap, really basic stuff, but it's a very good starting point. And then I also like their insider tab or their insider trading tab, which shows how well compensated the C-suite is, who the board members are, how much they get paid, how much they own in stock. And that sort of information as an investor is, I find, very useful because you want to know if the people you're trusting your money with are also invested in the company as well. And then I really like the key ratio summaries section of Morningstar. I find that a really good overview for first getting to know a company.
And sorry, by key ratios, what are you referring to?
So the key ratios, if you go to Morningstar's homepage, there's a key ratio tab, which kind of expands on the quote metrics like market cap and stuff. And then it has just another little tab called full key ratios. And you click on that, and all of a sudden it pops up with the last 10 years of sales history, the last 10 years of earnings history, earnings per share history, what their share count has done over time, how returns on equity have been in each and every year over the past decade. And then they have balance sheet metrics as well. And I find that amount of data in one place very, very useful. I can go in there, I can look at really the backstory of a company and get a sense of where it's been in the past. And it really helps me in the beginning stages of my research. Just go and look and see if this company always dilutes its shareholders, for example, or whether it always loses money, or any one of those red flags that come up, I can immediately eliminate it based on the key ratios data that Morningstar provides.
Right, right. Yeah, it sounds like Morningstar is a very good starting place anyway.
Yeah, I would say Morningstar is a great starting point, and it's where I start a lot of my company-specific research.
Okay. And do you like their research reports and analysis as well, or?
Yeah, I do. I do like their research reports, and I find their ESG reports are very good as well. But that's something that you have to pay for, so it's a little beyond the scope of today's video, which just focuses on free resources. But nevertheless, even without the analyst reports that Morningstar provides, it's a good resource, and because of the tabs we've already talked about, it's a great place to start stock-specific research.
Yep, no, fair enough. Okay, good. Well, that's a great summary of Morningstar. The second one you sent me is one I know you know very well. It's called Seeking Alpha. Maybe you could speak to that.
Right. Yeah. In my opinion, Seeking Alpha is a great resource, and it's getting better with time. It looks like the management and the people in charge of Seeking Alpha are trying to improve their service, and it's slowly showing results. Before I dive into Seeking Alpha, though, I should mention I write for them. So technically, that means they pay me. It's not very much. Whenever I write a report, they will pay me a little bit, and I should just disclose that because some people might just want to discredit everything I say about Seeking Alpha because of that. And I would also say, like Morningstar, while a lot of their stuff is free, some of their stuff isn't. So you can pay for better access to certain features. But we'll just focus on the free stuff for today and on the free side of their platform.
Okay. Yep. Good disclosures there. I appreciate that. And if people want to find you on Seeking Alpha, what's the best way to do that?
They can type in my name, Philip MacKellar, and I'll pop up. And I try to write once a month. I'm not anything like as frequent a writer as some of the people on that platform. And honestly, while I try to write once a month, sometimes it just doesn't happen. Some things come up, and sometimes it slips to writing once every 2 months, for example.
It's difficult to write publicly that often. It's a big undertaking. So,
Yeah.
what else do you like about Seeking Alpha then? I mean, where do you find the value in their
Well,
platform?
there are a few features that I really like. The first is that their portfolio and watch list tools are great. You can insert, say, 10 or 12 companies that you're interested in. You can sign up for email alerts. You can build a watch list and a portfolio with those companies. And each day in your inbox, or once a week, or however often you schedule it, you'll get email updates which detail the latest company news, the latest earnings, important SEC filings, and you will see what other analysts or investors are thinking about that company because you'll also get the analyst report. So for me, it's a great way to stay on top of the news flow, helps me see what other investors are thinking, and just stay up to date with the companies that I've either invested in or the companies that I'm interested in owning.
What about the earnings transcripts? I like how those land in my inbox and the daily news and latest analysis. Is that something you find value in, or?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I would say they're Seeking Alpha, the earnings transcripts are wonderful. I really like them. I used to be one of those people who would listen to conference calls all the time, and it's just slow and it's tedious. So those Seeking Alpha transcripts have saved me because it's so much easier to read through them. It's so much faster, and you can still get all the information you need just by reading the transcript. So I find that's a great service. And I would also say, hand in hand with the transcript service that Seeking Alpha has, the quarterly data that they provide as to if a company's beaten expectations or missed expectations is also very good. And you can scroll through that and you can see if a company always disappoints the street or if the company is always outperforming. And that's great data to have on hand too.
No kidding. Yeah, that's very valuable information. Any other features that really stand out for you, or?
The financial statements are pretty good on Seeking Alpha. I would say Morningstar, just for me personally, I find Morningstar's format a bit easier to digest. But that's not to say that Seeking Alpha has bad financial statements. I think they're pretty good. The company overview page is really useful as well. So you can go in there and you can look and just read about what the company actually does, what sector it's in, how many employees it has, that sort of thing. And then it also has fairly good historic trading data where you can go through and you can see on a day by day basis either where the stock opened, where it finished, and how high or low it oscillated during that day. And all three of those features are pretty good for Seeking Alpha.
Sounds like it's a pretty well-rounded resource overall. Any shortcomings with their free service that you'd mention?
Yeah, I guess every website has shortcomings, and they're no exception. The biggest one is that as a Canadian investor, they don't actually provide Canadian symbols, and Morningstar does. So Morningstar has them beat there. For example, if I type in Ryokan to Morningstar, I can type in REI.UN, and that's the symbol it's traded under. For Seeking Alpha, I have to type in Ryokan, and it will come up with a symbol RIOCF, which doesn't make much sense. It's just not what it trades under. So there they have them beat. I would also say that the peer comparison tab for Seeking Alpha often doesn't make sense to me. So the example I can talk about is I recently wrote about a company, Hibbett, which is a retailer in the United States, and they're a shoe retailer. So they sell a lot of Nike and Adidas products. So their closest peers are Dick's Sporting Goods and Foot Locker and Shoe Carnival, that sort of company. But instead, if you go to the peer comparison tool on Seeking Alpha, you'll get a Halloween party store and a boat retailer or a yacht retailer and an outdoor camping store and a strange storage product store is the peer group that they're comparing to. And it's kind of funny. I find it kind of funny because it's so obviously not the peer group they should be compared to. But that's the way Seeking Alpha has done it so far, and hopefully they change that in the future. But I'm not going to hold my breath for it.
Yeah, it's odd. I've seen some strange comparisons myself, but all in all, seems like a good service, certainly as a free service, with a little bit of room for improvement, perhaps. So the third one you mentioned was Yahoo Finance. Why do you like Yahoo?
Yeah, I really like Yahoo Finance. It's actually the homepage on my browser, and it's probably been my homepage for a decade now. It's probably the longest serving website I've used consistently. For me, Yahoo Finance doesn't do anything really, really well, but they do everything quite well. So they're just a solid and steady website with which you can assess and research stocks. And for that reason, I imagine they'll continue to be my homepage for a long time to come.
And what is it exactly that you use it for then, other than just a broad look?
Yeah, so I talked about the watch list tool that Seeking Alpha has. I would say that the watch list tool Yahoo has is even better. So you can quickly insert symbols that you're interested in and build out your watch lists. Or if you buy and sell companies, you can quickly trade them in and out and just keep on top of the price movements that are happening or the volume activity that is happening in the companies you're interested in. And I just find the interface at Yahoo Finance a little simpler, and I quite like that. I also really like the historic data tab. So something I do is I'll go through and just play around and see what the 52-week highs and lows have been, what the volumes are like on a monthly basis, how high and low it's traded in the past month or in the past year, and the flexibility of the data you can get on Yahoo is perfect for that. You can download it and you can do whatever you want with it. So it's really highly functional and customizable data.
Yeah, the data customization there is great, for sure. Yeah, what are some other tabs you use on Yahoo, or do you?
Yeah, I like the analyst tab. The analyst tab is good because it shows you the number of analysts covering the stock, shows you whether they rate the stock as a buy or a hold or a sell, and what the consensus earning estimates are on a go forward basis. So I like that. It's very useful, very helpful. They also show how consistent the company has been in the past, either matching or beating their earnings expectations. And for me, those are important to look at and important to see. And I also really like their summary tab and their statistics tab. And there you can get basic information again, like market cap, dividend yield, insider ownership levels, how much people are short the stock. And it gives you a quick snapshot of how the company is doing, what the key metrics are, and how other investors feel about it.
Okay, and so what about Yahoo's newsfeed?
Yeah, the news feeds are good. Like many of the things that Yahoo does, I would say it's very respectable resource, but it's not quite best in class. There, I would say Seeking Alpha has a slight edge on them, but I like their news resource for sure. It's very helpful to go through, and it's a good resource to have in your back pocket. I also like the how it provides some articles and general investment news sources related to different industries and sectors. So that's a good thing that they do as well.
Well, we're really getting into the nuts and bolts of things here. I see that you've got the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and the Ontario Securities Commission as well listed here. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, so I guess this is a two for one because it's actually two different websites. So the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is obviously for American listed companies, and then the Ontario Securities Commission is obviously for Canadian companies. And these are fantastic resources. If investors really want to get to know the companies they are investing in, this is where they go. After you've gone through Morningstar or Yahoo or wherever you're doing your preliminary research, and you've decided you like a company, you want to go in and you want to read the annual reports. You want to read the other annual filings like the 10K in the US or the annual information form here in Canada or the proxy statements for the annual general meeting. You want to see what's really going on at the company, understand its strategy, understand its operations, see what its employee relations are like, if there are legal issues or union issues or customer lawsuits or those sorts of things. All of that information can be found in the documents filed with the SEC or the Ontario Securities Commission.
Right, yeah. What about quarterly filings?
Yep, they provide quarterly filings too here in Canada. The management discussion and analysis, something that's filed quarterly, and it discusses how management views the business in the prior quarter. And then the 10K in the US is the similar filing there. And then there are the financial statements too, which come out on a quarterly basis. And there you can go through and you can actually read the footnotes to see what's behind the numbers that the company is talking about in their balance sheet or on their income statement.
The lovely footnotes, eh? Where all the important information's hidden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, in addition to annual and quarterly corporate filings, what else do you look for on the SEC and OSC's websites?
Yeah, I like going through actually voting results. So after an AGM happens, going through the voting results, what happened at the AGM is useful. There's something called an 8K in the US, and an 8K document is really a catch-all that is published anytime something material happens. So you can always look out for those. If there's a merger or a divestment or something along those lines, they'll publish it as well, and you can read through the forms there. And then if a company is in the process of being acquired, or a hedge fund or a big institutional investor is taking a big position, a 13D and a 13G may be filed with the SEC, so I look out for those as well. And there's a lot of different documents that are filed with either the Ontario Securities Commission or the US Securities Commission to look out for. But I think those are probably the big ones I look at myself.
Fair enough, yeah. Maybe the only downfall is they're not the most user-friendly websites.
That's true. Yep. They're big, clunky government websites, no doubt about it.
So Canadian Insider, that was the last free resource you have mentioned. Do you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, Canadian Insider is excellent. As the title suggests, this website is dedicated to tracking the insider activity at a company. And what they mean by that is the trades that occur in the C-suite, so the executive officers and the CEO, and the trades that board members participate in or engage in. And for me, watching what the insider is doing is a very good idea because they may say one thing and do another. And this is a way to double check that. And it's good to know what the people who are actually managing the company think about its prospects. So if I see a lot of board members selling, I may take a step back. If I own it, I might think about selling it or reassess my research, double take, for example. And then if I see a ton of insiders buying, like the CEO and the CFO are just out there buying tons of shares, I might get really interested in it. If it's low on my research list, I might bring it forward. If I already own the name, I might buy some more. And I like looking at what the insiders are doing for that reason.
Well, there's a very short list of why insiders would be buying their own securities. So yeah, it's a good indicator for sure. The website is called Canadian Insider. Do they track U.S. securities as well?
They do actually. They do track U.S. companies as well, and I like that feature because there are plenty of companies out there which track insider activity on the U.S. side or the Canadian side, but not really both. So I think it's a really good one-stop shop if you're interested in looking at the insider activity associated with the companies you're researching.
Right. Okay, good. And how far back in time can you go on Canadian Insider?
Canadian Insider goes back 6 months, which isn't amazing, but if you're watching a name over time, over a year or so before you get interested in it, and you check regularly enough with Canadian Insider, you'll be covered. So it's quite a good resource. If you want more details, if you want to see insider activity that goes back a year or more, or you want to see how much the CEO owns or the directors own, you can sign up for the paid for service, which is called Inc Research. And that's actually what we do. We have a subscription with Inc Research because while the 6 months are great and they work for most people, we personally want more details and we want to be able to see what's going on a longer term basis. And I use the website nearly every day, so it's a useful website for us for sure.
For sure, absolutely. No, it's great. Well, thank you, Phil, for those great resources. Any final comments you'd like to make?
I would say, in addition to looking through Morningstar or Yahoo or Seeking Alpha or the SEC or Canadian Insider, it's always good to go to the corporate website. And you can always read through the press releases that they have there. You can download the corporate presentations, and you can understand or see how the company presents itself to the investing public and to its customers. And then I guess I would also reiterate what I said at the top, that the resources covered today, they're free, but you can pay up for them if you wish. They're useful, but they could change over time. So some of these resources might get better, others might get worse. And finally, that there are just so many resources out there that you by no means need to pigeonhole yourself into the ones we've talked about today. You can easily get the information we've talked about at other sources as well.
I noticed we forgot to mention Google. Just the old Google search.
Yeah, that's right.
Good. Well, thank you, Phil. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today and to provide this good free information for people to help improve their process. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for setting this up, and I look forward to the next video in this 3-part series.
Great. Okay. Thank you all for watching. And if you think we missed an important free investor resource, do let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And this is the first in a 3-part series where we'll also be covering free news resources as well as free macro resources. So do stay tuned and be sure to subscribe.